can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. I go boom. They can't see me like Houdini, Lamborghini. It go boom. They can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. It go boom. They can't see me like Houdini, Lamborghini. It go boom.
So, where are you today? Are you in Vegas?
I'm in Vegas, so I am in the cul-de-sac with our favorite family that we know and love, the Browns, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm just
yeah.
second guessing everything.
No.
So this is there's a lot of shit that happens here, and in the later seasons of Sister Wives, we see actually the wives once they spoiler alert, they leave Cody, the husband, in this polyamorous situation. They actually come back to this neighborhood as part of their like grieving process. Um, and probably one of my favorite Mary moments was her coming back and she's like, I want to get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Mm,
And I loved that. So, but honestly, I think of this a lot because there's no better setup than this. Like
yeah.
the property that they move on to with Flagstaff, for those of you that watch the show, it becomes really contentious with like dividing the property equally. And this seemed like the best dynamic. Like you get some autonomy, you get some space, you get convenience.
Yeah.
It's like kind of the best situation for a polyamory situation, family. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I thought that this was like kind of the smartest thing that they could have done and that they've probably have
Wow.
done in the whole like thousand seasons that they've had of the show.
Wow. I love that. And we have not talked about Sister Wives together
No.
because you kind of plugged it to me when I was visiting you recently. And there's 19 seasons. And I think I saw you maybe 6 weeks ago, was it? Guess what season I'm on?
Oh, you do be burning through it.
I am burning through it.
I want to say maybe 12.
Yeah, good guess. I'm on season 14 out of
Wow.
19 in
That
six
is
weeks.
so impressive.
So your girl is dedicated to Sister Wives and all things reality TV.
I would literally never doubt it.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I am actually at the point where you're just kind of talking about where they just moved from this cul-de-sac in your background, and are now in Flagstaff. They don't have like the housing situation is just really chaotic right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you recall. So, yeah, it's definitely like one of the biggest things they talk about is how much the cul-de-sac in Vegas was just really the best thing that they ever did as a family. So I do love that reference.
Thanks. And where are you at? Because there's somebody behind you that's bringing
Yeah.
gifts.
We're at Swig here and getting some dirty soda.
Yeah.
So got coconut cream and Mountain Dew.
Have you had a dirty soda?
No.
Okay,
I
well,
mean,
I strongly recommend it.
where did you have one?
Oh, I made my own. Well, no, okay, let me back up. I made my own. Here in Canada that they started selling coconut cream that they use in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, if you know, you know. Coffee Mate, I think is the brand. They sold it here
Mm,
for a very limited time. So I bought it and I put it with some Dr. Pepper. I put it with a Diet Coke with lime. It was phenomenal. And there's
wow.
actually a cafe in town that makes not, they don't call them dirty sodas, but they essentially are, where it's like sparkling water with a bunch of syrups and milk, and it is amazing. Definitely recommend it.
That does sound good. Like, I will say, you have been more of an inspiration to me around like drinks. Just
Thank you.
because, like, growing up, and I'll maybe reference some of this in this episode, but like, growing up, we were like very, like, sheltered in a lot of ways, and like, things were really like laid out. So we did not drink any soda or pop at all. Like, it just was not in the house. We never had it. So I
Mhm.
never, like, that was never a thing for me. But I remember as a teenager, like, I think it actually was in the States somewhere. We stopped and got snacks, and there was this one that was like a cherry vanilla cola.
Mm.
And it's like the only soda that I ever tried. And it was just so good. And so now I'm obsessed with anything cherry vanilla. So I
Wow.
think if there was a cherry vanilla dirty soda, I would definitely be down for that.
100%. And you can totally make one. Like it is so, so good. And I'm actually honored that you say that because similarly too, for very different reasons, but I didn't grow up drinking sodas either and like didn't really have anything like processed at all. I wasn't allowed to have like sodas or
Yeah.
anything like that. But, you know, in my adulthood, I've really like reclaimed that and have been really enjoying. I think drinks are probably my favorite thing to invest in. Like when I go to the grocery
Yeah.
store, I always stock up on different kinds of teas and sparkling water. So I love that. That's such an honor. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I do love just like a cold, bubbly flavor.
Mm.
And it's funny that you say that the States introduce you to that because I think same, like going to Texas and like seeing people just get these big gulps of whatever flavors they wanted to, like it's so liberating.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So even like with Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and seeing Lisa and all these women carrying around their giant cups, like I never really got that until I watched Mormon Wives. And so now
totally.
I'm like putting all the pieces together and like with the Brown family, I'm like, okay, some things are starting to add up here.
Totally.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah,
we're leaning into it. We're
exciting.
here for the culture of it.
Yeah. But so it's been a year. Like
Yeah.
it's been a
Welcome
year.
to season two, everybody. Yeah, it's been a long time. Definitely happy to be back. Excited to be talking about these fun things.
Yeah.
And this is just such a fun outlet and connecting and just chatting about the things that we watch on our own time. It's like one of my favorite things. So I'm super excited to be back.
I know. Me too.
Mhm.
What have you been up to? Like how has your year been?
Girl, it's busy. We're out here living. The world is falling apart, but
Mm.
still
However,
here. My reality show watching has not changed.
yeah.
Yeah, just been working hard as I know a lot of people are right now. But I was actually kind of reflecting on spring equinoxes today, I think. And one of the things that I was reading this newsletter that I signed up for that I loved, and part of spring is reminding us of things that are born and starting again and regenerating. And I just think it's really timely that we're recording our season two, episode one today and just
Aw,
planting seeds of things that make us happy and reconnecting. And it's just definitely one of my favorite things doing this. But yeah, just wanted to say that.
I love that.
What have you been up to?
Pretty much same as you. Like
Mhm.
just that grind, you know,
That grind.
the world, what can I say? Yeah, we're here, you
We're
know?
here, and that's what
Yeah.
matters. Here at
Yeah.
Can Be Bothered, we be bothered at times.
Yeah.
But
This cunt has been bothered. But I will say that for probably like a good 4 or 5 months, even, I really was not watching reality TV. Like, I don't
yeah.
know what came over me, but
Yeah,
I
guys, I
just,
had Abby over for a visit a few weeks ago, like she said earlier, and I was shocked to hear, not in a bad way.
no, I
We
know. It's
definitely
okay.
don't
Judge
judge,
away.
but
Judge
wow,
away.
this is not the girl I knew.
Yeah. I don't know what's happened to her. Yeah, no, I am not caught up
Mhm.
on Housewives in particular. I don't know. I did go on like a rampage, like canceling all my subscriptions to
Yeah,
everywhere.
that'll
So
do.
I feel like kind of went down the drain with that, but
Not-
I'm ready to get back on the horse. So we're starting with Mormon culture.
Yeah, I think that this is a really fun topic, kind of easing back into things because it's so big and we were saying before we start recording this that this will likely be a multi-part topic just because there's so much to say on the subject. But this is something that, like, I think has been a theme that we've been talking about on both this podcast and personally for a long time. And, you know, it really opened my eyes with Salt Lake City and Salt Lake City Real Housewives, I should say. So having, you know, Sister Wives and Secret Lives and Mormon Wives come out, it's been really eye-opening to me learning more about what Mormonism is and what it looks like for women. And I think there's been such a huge wave of trying to modernize it as well. And what does that look like? Is there a place for traditional Mormonism in the context today? And I see a lot of women trying to, uphold the same values but make it different. And it's sort of interesting to think about what that looks like. And it's entertaining, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. I know this is a topic that has been near and dear to us for a while, and we
Yeah.
have been really excited. Like, I know for me, this is one of the episodes I'm so excited for. Like, could not wait all day. I was so excited.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, if we do a two-parter, I'll be super down for that.
Okay, cool. I'm just sort of curious, like, because we both have different backgrounds, I think different relationships to religion. So when you're watching these shows, like, is there any kind of instinct or like guttural feeling you have with watching it? And if you want to share that, I'm curious.
Of course. I mean, you already know, like,
I
I've
do, but I want
spilled
to hear it
all the
again.
tea personally. And I'm a super open book, but yeah, like, I did grow up pretty religious. My dad was actually a pastor, and like, it turned out that the church that my parents were involved in was pretty culty and is like a pretty, like, thriving cult today.
Really? I didn't
So
know that actually. I never even thought to think about what it is today. That's interesting.
yeah, they're like alive and well.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, it definitely is interesting. Like, it's something that we kind of laugh about now. Like, hey, remember when we were in a cult? Um, but yeah, it's pretty weird because I think my like gut reaction to anything around religion is it relates to my experience where I'm just like, it's a cult.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
know? So I mean, I think watching especially Sister Wives, like, I found Sister Wives to be super eye-opening.
Hmm.
And I mean, we all make a lot of assumptions, and we all kind of buy into stereotypes to some degree.
Yeah.
And like, definitely around Mormonism and polygamy and stuff like that, I realized as I'm on season 14 that yeah, there have been a lot of stereotypes and assumptions I've made, and I actually have learned a lot. So I'm
Mm.
excited to kind of talk about that.
Yeah.
But I think I'm initially like, I mean, I'm just a very skeptical person. I'm very pessimistic. I'm very cautious. So automatically I'm like, okay, what's the dirt? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just always looking for scammers and,
She's an investigator.
you know, so I initially feel very cautious. And, when we're talking about the women too, I'm kind of thinking like, I'm almost automatically looking at these women as like victims,
Mm-hmm.
which, like, that brings up a lot of complex
Yeah.
feelings and thoughts for me as well. I'm sure we'll dive into that, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
That is super interesting. And I think honestly, like similarly, I feel similarly to you, even without the same like background. Like
Yeah,
I did not grow up religious at all. I have no religious background. And so like seeing the way that these women in all shows that I've seen, when they talk about growing up Mormon, it's just the shame that they have and that they hold. And I see them as victims of that. I see them as victims of these ideologies that were just sort of forced upon them and that they internalize so strongly. Um, and so it's been really interesting. I can so easily understand what they mean, even without having lived through it.
of
Even
course.
though I do think that like you having lived through it does give it obviously a different type of perspective and like knowing what you can kind of visualize the way that people are talking. Because the one thing about these shows is that we're not seeing any kind of involvement in the church. We're not like watching this
Yeah,
narrative and the gaslighting and the manipulation actually happening in real time. We only talk about it after the fact. So I can't visualize what it would feel like to be in a church and being told something like this is fact and just believing that. Like that's so unreal for me to think about, but I can totally understand how that would just like impact you so much because we're also going so often. Like Mormonism, it seems like a fairly like you're very involved in your church.
Absolutely. And like the one thing I can say, not to wash every religion or organized religion with the same brush, but like um they really curate like the kinds of things that you can consume outside of your church time. So even like the books, the
Yeah,
music, everything that you have is from the church
yeah.
and it's related to their ideology. Like to have anything in your home or to consume anything, it has to be approved by them. So I think that plays a big part. It's not just like your time in the church, like you're saying too, but also their grandparents and their aunts and their uncles, their families, and what's at home. What do I have access to? And
Oh,
especially if they're homeschooled,
oh my
you know,
gosh, yeah.
that's like a whole other level.
And I do feel like this kind of came up in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives as well as like internalizing so much of the type of content that they post and really getting approval from their church that they can show up online in a certain way. Um, And so I thought that that was really interesting to watch as well, like having the church be an active sort of person in these conversations, so whether they're approving or disapproving. And even Heather Gay from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City with her book, like the LDS Church is suing her, is my understanding. I don't know if they still are in active litigation, but like they are part of that monitoring of information outside of the
Yeah,
actual church time. So that's a really, really, really good point.
man. We're just
Literally.
like taking it all in.
Yeah. Why do you
Ugh.
think that, like, just sort of being a viewer, but also ha being somebody who was, religious and had grew up in that way, like, what would be your perspective on why women who maybe did grow up religious or not are so like drawn to these shows?
Mm. Um, I think, yeah, because there is a real like fascination, there is a real draw where it's almost like we can't look away.
Yeah, no, literally.
And um, for me, I just have this endless curiosity about like everything. So I think that's why I'm drawn in general is I just like I need to know what people think, what people feel, what's going on for them. Um, but I'm also relating that to like um, the ideology that they're in or the belief system that they're in. I really want to know is that really what they think? And
Mm,
I'm kind of like looking for little bits of coercion and manipulation. I'm looking for like signs that something's off. So it's kind of like, I don't imagine that most people would go into it. Maybe some do. Or they're looking
yeah,
for like, what's off here? What's sour? Um,
yeah.
I think a lot of people also just, quite frankly, don't know. Like,
Mhm,
I mean, I
mhm.
think there's a lot of religious groups that have been very hush hush and a lot behind closed doors.
Yeah,
And so to invite cameras in, all of a sudden people are like, ooh, like finally we're going to get a glimpse and like what's going on.
yeah,
But of course, it's all like they know they're on camera and they're going to present their best side. But
yeah, for sure.
what do
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah, those are all really good points. I do kind of feel like the point that you brought up of people watching just because it's like kind of a train wreck. And I think this is sort of similar to even shows like Summer House or Jersey Shore, even if I dare to make that kind of comparison. But I think just these lives that people don't live and how wild it is, and this sort of feeling of wanting to jump through the screen and sort of shake somebody and be like, what are you doing? I think a lot of people that feeling that they have they look for and I think a lot of times and whether they want to admit to it as being entertaining or not is a whole other thing but I think a lot of people do like find that entertaining to a certain degree and they kind of feel like good about themselves and their own life
Yeah,
choices because they're like I'm not doing that like at least I'm not dealing with that
validating.
situation right um but yeah I think like I do feel like there are women who watch it and resonate with, like I was mentioning earlier, like the shame stuff. And I think it's such an overt representation of misogyny. And it's just sort of very easy to call it out. And so when you're watching, it's just so like in your face how, how blatant it is. Um, and so I think like I feel like I've seen this a lot lately on my algorithm. But Amanda on Summer House, like there's been a lot of commentary of her marriage with Kyle and navigating that and what that looks like for her. And it's obviously two very different types of marriages, the one that Amanda's in with Kyle Cook. And like Cody Brown, but I do think that there is like similar positions where these women are just kind of navigating what their agency looks like in these marriages to men in heterosexual relationships. And I think a lot of women resonate at sometimes seeing their story on the screen, whether it's directly relating to that or kind of differently. But I think there are a lot of women that just want to feel less alone in what they're going through, and they want to feel like their story is represented on like that parasocial relationship thing that
Yeah.
the whole episode about. Um,
Plug
but
it.
I do think that that is a thing across women who watch because I feel like viewership on reality TV is predominantly women, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah. I mean,
But honestly, though, I didn't even think of that. And that is such a good point. Because, like, I think women having agency in marriage to begin with, like, is a pretty new concept,
yeah.
let alone for someone who's part of a religion that, generations and generations back, this is just,
Yeah.
what you do and you just accept it. You don't really question it.
Yeah.
Um, which honestly makes it even more fascinating to me to think about Janelle, who's one of Cody's sister wives. She is not from a Mormon faith or an LDS background. She kind of just chose to
Mhm.
get married and wasn't necessarily associated with them. So I think that is
Oh my
interesting.
gosh. Yeah, such a good point. And I think like going back to the culty kind of aspect of it, it's really interesting to see, I think, like representations like that of somebody like Janelle who got involved with this religion and was sort of like got swept up in it. But I do think that some people like people get involved in religions like that. And again, I don't want to make any huge generalizations, of course. That's, I think that goes without saying. But, a lot of people are just struggling in the world and want an answer to things, and they want to feel community and they want to feel connection. And I think that religion can offer that safe haven so much for people. And I think that is what draws people into whether they themselves are going to do it or they're watching somebody find answers to things and they're finding community, they're finding their partner, they're having this, force from beyond them validate that they're with the right person. Like those are just really concrete, easy answers to really big questions that we have to face as humans. So I think
Yeah.
people enjoy watching that.
Yeah. Wow. I completely agree. That was really well said. Yeah. And like, I just miss having you around to just gas you up. um, yeah. I think also, like, I can imagine that community has really shifted for them as they've been exposed and on TV. And I know, like, for the sister wives, especially, they've really vocalized that. And maybe, all our moms, all our Mormon moms, next season will share more and more about that too, how things have changed in their circles
I know.
as they've been filming, because, not everybody is down for that or supports that. I know
Yeah.
the Brown family ran into a lot of issues because they were filming, and some of their kids tried to join other churches and they were rejected because of their family being out in public. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Do you think, because I'm just sort of curious to hear your thoughts on this. Like, I know that Cody Brown on Sister Wives has talked a lot about the intention of filming when they first started was to recruit people, more or less. It was to get people aware, the word of God, spread it, talk about polyamory, talk about this way of living life, and sort of like advocating for it. And I'm wondering if you think that that was accomplished, maybe not across us, the kind of viewership that we are, but
Yeah.
I'm just sort of thinking in the many years it's been on TV, it has it done that? Because I think later on, and I won't spoil too much, but he does have a bit of a faith crisis and he questions a lot of why he even started doing this in the first place. And he realized that he was totally wrong in his
Mm,
approach to things. And it's just so blatant from the other side that no, this was actually just like people kind of looking at you like, oh my God, I don't think that this recruited anybody to live this way.
no. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. I can see like where he's going to get to that faith crisis point because right now he's becoming very unhinged. So I can see that happening. More unhinged. But hmm. Yeah, I think
Like I'm just thinking TLC audiences. Like
yeah.
I'm just like kind of visualizing it might looking for something. Like my opinion is that no, but like I wouldn't be surprised if there were some people that were like, hey, I want to have four wives,
Yeah.
and this is a religion that can do that, and they have values of, control. Sign me up.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I will say there are much easier ways to have control over a person because that is definitely the fucking long road and like not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, being filmed as a polygamous family, it's maybe like glamorizing or like misleading. And there's going to be a lot of things that people don't realize, similar to social media, right?
Yeah.
Like you see all the highlights and like, you think you have an idea, but you haven't really lived it.
Yeah.
So I think it could be very misleading to a lot of people. I am sort of the mindset that people will just do what they want to do anyways. Like if someone wants that, like they'll just do it, whether it's like there or not.
Yeah. True. True.
But, you know, yeah, it is interesting to think about like how he wanted to make people aware and like maybe promote more acceptance of
Mhm.
it. Um, I don't really think that's been accomplished just based on like what they've continued to experience and like the laws that they've run into.
Okay, yeah, that's actually, if you don't mind, I feel like that's a really
Yeah.
great, bridge to something like the next thing I want to talk about was like things that were I found shocking or like surprised me.
Mhm.
And I did not even consider the legal side of being in a polyamorous family, like,
No,
but more so how unprotected you are as a woman in that dynamic from because you're not legally married. And you are just sort of left to completely trusting these people, and especially your sister wives. Like, you're not in a romantic relationship with them. You're kind of bound through your husband. And there can be times where it's really quite contentious across the sister wives, where they are not even friends. They're sort of barely getting along. At best, they're co-parents, at best, they're community, but more often than not, we see that dynamic really not working. And so you have to like financially put all of your trust in multiple different people with the hope that nobody's going to screw each other over. And there's just no protection. And also like it adds so much complexity because you really are an independent woman in terms of your finances and the land that you own and the work that you do and your pension and and who has custody of the kids. Like there's so many layers to it that I don't know why somebody would ever want to do that. Like that's so wild.
it is definitely a different lifestyle. And I think, like, again, because Sister Wives is filmed over 19 seasons, and I think they're still going,
They are, yeah.
like, we're seeing this all start to break down.
Yeah.
And Cody was left with one of his wives, his only legally married wife. And he now states that he would never be polygamous again. He does not support it. He does not think it works.
Yeah.
And I think it's very telling that out of their like 20 children, zero of them have decided to have a plural family.
No, yeah.
Um, so I think all of that is very telling.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like these are the things that we don't really, that maybe get missed in that sort of glamorized. Like, I do think there could be benefits of having a plural family. And I do think perhaps there's an ethical way to do it.
Mhm.
Like I hold out for that possibility, not for me, but maybe for someone else. Like, do I think someone can choose that and do it ethically? Sure. Do
Yeah.
I think that's the fucking most complicated, difficult thing you could do as a human? Probably.
Yes.
Um, so don't sign me up, but yeah,
I think that
it's
that was honestly one of the things that was the most shocking to me that I actually was like, I never thought about that. I think it was actually Robin because Robin really wants to be in a polygamous family. Like she left her, one of the wives and sister wives, she left, she was married previously, had her two children, then was remarried to Cody and sort of entered into this polygamous family. And she really wants a good relationship with her sister wives. Like that is her dream. And I remember there was this one scene where she was like, I envisioned myself sitting on a porch with my sister wives watching our kids play, and that's all I wanted. And I was like, these women just want friends that are kind of like partners, like that they want to be in life with. They want to raise their children. They want to be co-parents. They want to be best friends. They want to be family with their friends. And I think a lot of people can really resonate with that. I do. Like I have so many friends that I would love if I were to have kids, like raise my kids with and sort of do life together with.
yeah.
Um, but do I do I want polyamorous dynamic? No. But like I can totally sympathize with that desire for community. And I never thought about it in that way. I sort of assumed it was just like a man wanting for women to like do everything for him, which it is. But like I never thought of what the women's desire were in those dynamics. And it really is community and partnership and having a really big family. And I was like, okay, I can appreciate that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. What's interesting too is that all of his four wives at some point or another have said that they probably wouldn't have married him if nobody else was there. So I think
They are
that's
there for
very
themselves.
telling. They're
Yeah.
there for each other. I
Yeah.
literally said to my husband watching it last night, I was like, these women just want to marry each other. Like,
Yes.
just go be together.
Yeah, but they probably like, and I don't want to, speak on other people's sexuality, especially these particular examples,
For
but
sure.
just kind of more broadly, like, I wonder how many of them would be queer if they grew up in an environment where they felt like they could do that.
Yeah.
Is polyamory sort of a way of expressing themselves, within the
Yeah.
safety of their religion? It's super interesting to think about.
Yeah. I do want to give them some credit as a family, like how accepting they've been because two of their kids are
Yeah.
queer.
Yeah.
And again, I'm on season only on season 14 out of 19, but there's
So,
still more to come. So I don't know what's going to happen next, but so far they've been very supportive
oh
and
yeah,
understanding, and
totally.
um, they've kind of taken the approach with other communities of like, hey, if you have felt othered and marginalized, we have too, and like we support you and want
Yeah,
to like have community with you and like not judge you. So
100%.
that's been something like because my religion growing up was very much not like that. So for me, that was one of the things that really surprised me was just hearing this religion that I always interpreted as like very strict and black and white
Yeah.
and closed minded was actually not, but at least their family wasn't. I can't speak to the broader.
Yeah, no, I think that that is something to give them credit for and to definitely recognize because, I've been reflecting on religion and we watched Conclave recently, which won some, I think they won some awards at the Oscars, but they were definitely nominated. Um, Anyways, it's kind of a bit of a side tangent that I won't totally go into, but they talked about the power of religion and the symbolism of the Pope and how the church should be an inspiration for leadership. Like it should actually be informing us and changing and progressing. And you should actually be allowed to sin, quote unquote, and be able to talk about it and learn and move forward. Like that is sort of the goal. And the best scenario is to have that community shape you and give you values that you can align with. And it's not super black and white, and it can change depending on, like with society. It's not sort of stayed in this one place as
Mm.
society's progress. It should be flexible. And I haven't still seen a representation of that, at least in my own life, of what that looks like. But I do think that to give the women in that show credit, they are Mormon, but they are very accepting of their queer children, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess too, like I'm not, and like I probably should have researched this more. Maybe that's for part two, but like um there's Mormonism and then there's LDS, Latter-day Saints.
Yes.
And I definitely lumped them in together,
Oh, 100%.
which I think literally everybody does unless you're
Yeah.
part of the faith. But yeah, apparently they are different. And I was kind of surprised in Sister Wives when they were like, we're not associated with that church. Like they just really wanted to make it clear that they're not. And like I think it's the LDS church that like really distance themselves from the Brown family because of polygamy, and that's not something that is affiliated with their faith, which I had assumed it was.
I
So,
think that the Brown family they're part of a different type of Mormonism too. That's different from like I was
mhm.
kind of going down a bit of a rabbit hole on Reddit. And granted, I don't fully understand the terminology of these things,
Yeah.
but the way that my partner like kind of rephrased it to me is that they're a part of the most extreme form of Mormonism. Like
Mm,
they're quite like
yeah.
yeah, they're quite in it.
Man,
Yeah. But
it's a
you're right, there's
lot.
so many different subgroups, and I definitely won't pretend like I know all of them, and I hope that I'm not, you know, generalizing in a bad way. It's just more talking about the examples that we see in these shows at the very least. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many examples, especially in the beginning when things are like fresh and exciting and like bright and they're on camera, so they're probably a little like shy and subdued. And then like as time goes on, we see their personalities come out more and more.
Yeah.
Um, but I think like um, just seeing examples of where there may be a lack of choice, a lack of freedom, um, not a lot of room for like kind of being an individual.
Yeah.
I just think that would grate on you so much. And I know that's something that like a lot of women, a lot of mothers go through anyways, like at that point in life. But I just can imagine it's just so highlighted for them with so many kids, especially for Mary being someone who has a child fully grown up and not at home.
Yeah.
And all the other kids are still little, still around. Everyone else is parenting still. And Mary's just kind of on her own, realizing all this about herself. So no wonder she goes through it.
I mean, that is one of the most complex parts of that show, I think, is the age gap. Um, and yeah, where you are in your motherhood journey. And I think Robin felt a lot of isolation because she didn't get to raise her kids with her other sister wives, but they got to do it together. And so she sort of had to raise her kids with Cody while her sister wives are kind of navigating relationships with adult children. They're far more independent. Cat saying hi, he agrees. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I definitely feel like that lends itself to the themes that the show sort of morphs into around agency and coming to terms with decisions that were made in your youth and what that looks like now going into a different chapter of your life, and you don't want to be part of it anymore. And it's really empowering to see that growth in the wives that do leave him.
I know. I can't wait to see that happen because I think like right now they're so Cody just pitched them living in one house again instead of the beautiful cul-de-sac in your background there, which was definitely the best solution for them, I think.
Yeah.
And the thing about like, I know Cody is kind of saying like this will protect you more as my wives, because if we're under one roof, then you'll have more rights to the kids and more rights to assets and things like that, which I don't really buy.
No.
Um, but like, it also makes me think, like, once you're under a roof with someone, it is that much harder to actually leave. And
Oh,
like, even
100%.
thinking about like domestic violence situations,
Yeah.
like generally speaking, it takes someone 7 to 12 times to try and leave an abusive relationship. When you factor in housing, it's 30 times.
Oh, and this comes up with, and again, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but this comes up a lot with Janelle and her contemplating. I know that you know that she leaves him, but
Yeah.
part of that is her saying, I have nothing to my name. I have no housing. I
Yeah.
have literally a car, and that's about it. And that there was something so real about her
Is
cat.
that Abby?
Oh, you just can't get enough of me. Um, there's something just so real that I'm so glad that they shared on that show. And if there was any part of that show that I really respect was that the producers of it and the editors like kept parts like that in and they were very honest. I think they were trying to give their own message separate from the Brown family's message, and that I really respect.
That is such a good observation. Yeah, very true. They really make them confront their own realities. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Confronting reality. I'm curious, like in terms of these roles that these women are playing and how much we see that develop. I think in all shows that we're talking about, like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, there's a lot of young women that are really reckoning with these gender roles that their parents grew up in, that they don't want to be part of, they want to be something different. Um, and, I think we're seeing that even the ladies and sister wives as they're moving on with their lives in their 50s and 60s and they're navigating what their identity looks like outside of the Mormon faith and polygamy. It's really cool to see it being modernized and what that looks like exactly. Because to me, this religion in particular is quite outdated. Like it's the most outdated one in my mind. So to see people shifting it or trying to, I think is really interesting. I do think it's working for the most part. I think
Mm,
people are, in my opinion, are really like thinking about the ways that they can be part of this church or part of this religion and have different types of gender norms and be the primary breadwinner in their family. Like these women make more money than all their husbands do in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
mm.
um
Love that for them.
and it's really cool to see at least Macy's relationship with her husband. Her husband's very supportive of her, making money and going out, going to Chippendales, whereas there's other husbands on the show that were not so supportive of that. And so I think that it shows that there's capacity for that growth. I do think that it's limited within a certain way. Like you're still subscribing to a certain value system that is pretty strict on certain things.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you feel like there is growth there, and if you feel like people are receptive to it, that growth.
Yeah. Good question. I think there definitely is growth. It wouldn't be fair to say that there isn't. Um, like, again, the stereotype is that you're wearing like long
Yeah,
floral dresses and bonnets and like, even like the church growing up that I was at, it was very much like there was a certain dress that the women had, and now it's like this big super church that has like concerts and like a
oh my
super cool
God.
Instagram page, and like everything has been like totally modernized. And so I think in a lot of ways that's just like good marketing on their part, that they're
Yeah,
like recruiting more people that way because this is what's trending and this is what
a
people are
really good point.
drawn to. So I think people in religion have been very smart in their marketing strategies.
Yeah, yeah,
um my concern sometimes is that that will draw people in thinking it's closer to their current life or what they know, or they have expectations around it that maybe are going to be slowly conditioned or reconditioned and slowly like indoctrinated, dare I say,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's how it happens. So I think in some ways it is very predatory. Um, in other ways, like for the women thinking of like mom talk, um, a lot of these religious groups have operated behind closed doors for a long time. People
Yeah.
were not really like their transparency is not something you would associate with organized religion,
Yes.
like across the board,
Yeah.
right? And so, in some ways, I think for women to invite the cameras in, it's a way of having like some transparency and maybe um, some independence, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
this is something I'm doing. I'm kind of controlling this to some degree.
Mhm.
And like, I'm getting the ability to like put things out there in a way that like is sort of beyond the organized religion and maybe beyond like what my husband would want. This
Yeah.
is like, so I think there's a lot of ways that it really is working.
Mhm.
um, I do think people buy into it because they see that it's relatable to them. Like it looks a lot more relatable than it ever did 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Well, and I think marketing is such a great word for that. Like I didn't even make that connection and little investigative over here. This is so good. But I do think like that is such a great point because we even sort of see these narratives of like gossip come up a lot within Mom Talk and Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Like the Utah culture, even reflected in Real Housewives of Salt Lake City as well. Like there's the more like the good version of being a Mormon, the more popular you are. Like the more you're like that, the more you fit in, the more that you belong, the more that you're connected to community. And so shows like this, I could imagine. I'm just so curious to hear like what other people who live in Utah like
Yeah.
see it. But if they're like wanting to stay in this religion, not because they are aligning with it on a value system, but just because then they can like go to Swig because they don't drink alcohol. Like they can kind of
Yeah.
be part of that clique almost. But it is wild that it's all contained within like the same city. Like there's so much
Yeah.
there. It feels like a pressure cooker kind of. Like I almost want to go because of how intense it seems. Like just that one city.
I know. I would love to. But yeah, you're right. Like I think, it would feel really different to be in that space and like like that small town effect. Everyone knows everyone and like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't want to see, they're gonna see what's in my shopping cart and like
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Like speaking of real Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, we did recently get the season 2 trailer for the season 2. I'm done.
has one Cronenberg.
Yeah. Yeah. No, okay. So, speaking of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, we recently got the trailer for season 2, and Abby actually didn't watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives until recently, until she came to visit me, and I made her sit down and watch it all. So I know it's pretty fresh in your mind. It's now fresh in mine again from rewatching it. I had a lot of predictions when I first finished it, and now I think seeing the trailer, it's sort of even crazier than I expected to be. So I do have a couple of predictions. I do know just from following the ladies on social media, like a little bit
Hmm.
about who's pregnant, who's not, so that's not really a shock to me. I mean, it's a shock to see these women so young be such
Yeah.
mothers of like so many children. It's so wild to me, but anyways, happy for them. Congrats. It's what they're about. And they all have very cute kids, so that's really sweet.
Yeah.
But um, I think that Jen Affleck and what's his face? I don't even remember his name, and I don't want to remember it. Zach,
Oh,
I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I think that they did separate and they get back
Oh.
together in this season because he did go to New York for medical school, and we see in the trailer him show up at her door with flowers. To me, that isn't that they're living together or that they're like really communicating. So I would love to see that for her.
Yeah.
And I do think that we see Taylor and her baby daddy break up because I do know that they're currently not together. And it's pretty,
Hmm.
if you follow her on Instagram, she talks about it all the time. So seeing that breakup, because we left off in season with her just having her baby and like she was with him. So clearly shit goes down on the show.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I think everybody just knows there's going to be some drama with Taylor and her,
Yeah.
whatever his name is. Clearly, I'm not watching for the men.
Yeah, no, we're not here for them.
No. Yeah, I did see a recent TikTok of hers and it was kind of misleading. It was very dramatic and I was like, "Girl, I literally thought someone died." But
Oh,
she was
yeah.
just I got a little scared for a minute. I was like, "Oh my God, a tragedy." But no, it was just a breakup, which is something to be celebrated, I think, in their case.
100%. I need to see more of like Lila, her energy when she had her divorce party. Like, I need
Yes.
more of that. Like, I think that that really got overlooked in season one. Unfortunately, with all the drama that happened at that party, but she was
Yeah,
only like 22, mom of two, divorced. Oh my God, like literally what?
I
And
know.
just sort of reclaiming what she wants in her life and to just be single and to figure herself out. I just love the energy. So I'm manifesting that, but I don't think we're
Aw. I know. I think that is true, though, that a lot was probably overshadowed. And I found, like, obviously, I watched the entire season start to finish in a weekend. So we just ran right through it. But I do think there were probably a few little nuggets that were overlooked that are maybe going to, you know, reemerge in season two that we'll maybe dive a little deeper into. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited for that.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, I do suspect some more disturbing changes in appearance by Wendy. What the
Disturbing changes
Where?
in appearance by
What's her
Whammy.
name? Whitney.
Whitney. Whitney, honey.
Whitney. Um, and again, what's his face? I don't know any of these men's
Connor, I think.
names. Connor.
God, these names are not giving them anything to work with here.
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna look different, and
Sure are.
oh, it's just too much. Like, he in the trailer looked a little bit like Jake Paul, and I got scared.
Ooh, jump scare.
Blech!
Um, the only thing that I will say that's a little nugget, something I clocked, if you will.
Yeah,
Taylor got her hair done recently and didn't go to Jesse's salon, and all the girls go there. And she was like
damn.
tagging the hairdresser, and I feel like it was a little shady.
Yeah,
So yeah,
gonna be some drama.
yeah, making a little mental note of that, that maybe there's some drama with Taylor and
Ooh,
other ladies. So
I'm excited.
I'm
I
so
kind of, yeah, I kind of feel like I will want to go back and watch season one again
excited.
before I watch season two, just because I went through it so fast.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I feel like there's things that I'm gonna pick up on that maybe I didn't at
Well,
first.
and when I rewatch it with you, because it took me a while to figure out who was who.
Yeah, they
So
all look
going
the
into it,
same.
like knowing who was who and knowing what happened, it actually, like, I found it just as equally as entertaining watching it the second.
Mm,
So I definitely recommend it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So much more to say on this topic. I feel like we could sit here for hours and hours, but this is such a great first episode back into season two. We will definitely be talking about this in the future. So fun.
Yeah. You won't be able to stop us.
Mm-mm. No, you can't.
Yeah. We will definitely follow up with a part two because there is a lot more to say. But thank you so much to everyone who tuned in to hear our first episode of season two. We're so excited to be back here and we can't wait to do more.
Yay! Bye, everybody.
See ya.